Welcome to this follow-up video on patterns. In this second video, we're going to look at something called the first and second differences of patterns. And this first example, A, is one of the patterns that we looked at in the last video. So if you haven't had a chance to watch that and you want to, you can. But the first thing I'm going to do is write down the explicit formula that we determined in the last video, which is 5 plus 11n. Because to find each term, we keep adding 11. So if I substitute 1 in, I get the first term to be 16. If I substitute 2, 3, 4, etc., I could find more and more terms. Now what it means to find the first difference is that if I take the second term and subtract the first term, I want to find what is that difference. What did I add to get the next term? And in this case, I added 11. I can find the first difference of the next two terms the same way. Now what we should notice is that the first difference, no matter which two terms we subtract, is always going to be 11. And we knew that when we found what the pattern was. We keep adding 11, adding 11. The second difference is subtracting the first difference. So if I take 11 minus 11, I get 0. And this should continue and be true for every single difference all the way down. Now when it gets a little bit more tricky is when we have examples like this. Now this is an example that we did not look at in the last video, so let's come up with an explicit formula for this. Now I'm going to jump ahead a little bit. If you want to pause the video here and try and figure out yourself, you can. But what I'm going to now tell you is that each of these has a square. If I were to take 1 squared, I get 1. 2 squared, I get 4. 3 squared, 9, and so on and so on. How are these numbers related to this pattern here? Well, 4 is just 3 more than 1. 7 is 3 more than 4. 12 is 3 more than 9, and so on. So the pattern here is that I take each number, I square it, and then add 3. Now this is a tricky explicit formula, and I wouldn't necessarily expect you to know how to do this for the test coming up. Okay, but if I gave you this explicit formula, you should be able to work with it. So that gives me the first term of 4, 7, 12, and 19. Now let's find the first difference for each of these terms. 7 minus 4, 3. 12 minus 7, 5. 19 minus 12, 7. Now in this example, the first differences are not constant like they were in the last example. They're increasing by 2 each. So if I were to find the second differences, I should notice that the second differences will be constant. So in this example, the first differences were not, and the second differences were constant. That's something that all you need to do is realize, and we will discuss this more as we get into the future sections in our lessons in Math 9. So probably next semester we'll get into this more, but for now you just need to be able to determine the first and the second differences of patterns.